Just go live now. Thanks, David.
Good. Right, we're ready. Right, Morena, welcome to this meeting of the Vincent Community Board on Tuesday, the 29th of April 2025. Thank you all for coming, and for those online who are joining us for the public forum. So we've got no apologies for today, which is great. We've got a full house. And so we will move straight into the public forum, and we've got Warren McSkinnon via Microsoft Teams from Otago Cricket.
Good morning.
On it.
There is.
Online.
Yes.
Yeah, so pretty new to this. Sarah, you might want to you might need to help me here a little bit. But would you like me to go through the proposal with everyone, or has everyone had a read of that, or how do we go about that?
Right, sorry, I'm just going to just do a quick reminder, because everybody's here now, that we've got 4 speakers for the public forum, and then we've got 4 to be heard on submissions later in the meeting. So we're just going to really stick to the 5 minutes. For everybody here?
Yep, so take it read.
Yeah. There you go.
And just to answer your question, Warren, just a highlight of your application and any points you think that the board should know.
Cool. Okay,
They have read it.
Yeah, great. So obviously the application, we're bringing Super Smash Cricket to Alexandra again for this coming season, so 2025, which is in December. All up, there's 6 games of cricket that we play over the sort of 3 days at Molineux Park. So there's that's the Super Smash competition, which is obviously female and male cricket, so 6 games all up. Just a couple of good little points about it. There's roughly 50 to 70,000 people log in and watch every single one of these games. The female, the Sparks, is growing massively year on year, and now we have a lot of people turning up to Alexandra to watch the Sparks. So it's a full day of cricket, which is great. So and then it broadcasts out to about 6 different countries. Where Alexandra gets some great coverage with commentators, live commentators, and obviously some nice cameras to showcase Alexandra.
Is there anything else you'd like to add? You've still got a few minutes.
Oh no, yeah. I mean, it's just I have some deep roots in Central Otago as well, but I think that it's just what cricket, or what that community has done for cricket over the last 50 years is incredible, and it would be it's a big cost to bring this cricket to Alexandra, which you can see on the proposal there, but we still, the players and the community still love having cricket in that town, and it's a real cricket community. Like the fans, that they know cricket and they love cricket, they've been brought up with it in Alexandra. So it's great to keep bringing the game to that town, and it's also the surrounding towns that benefit from it as well. With most of the players are staying in Cromwell over the time. They stay in Cromwell and in Alexandra, so they spread out. And we also run a couple of great little community events on the days off at Molineux Park, where players and kids and parents come along and have some fun days with players, and playing some cricket.
Thank you very much, Warren. Are there any questions? Awesome. Thank you for coming along.
No, thank you very much.
And now we will switch over, still on Microsoft Teams. We've got Warwick Tomlinson from the Boys Brigade New Zealand.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. I just want to say I'm very excited about Super Smash Cricket, by the way. I love cricket. My role with Boys Brigade is I look after a bunch of different things, but the big role that we have is a program called Edge Workshop, which has been alive and well in Central Otago for about 5 years. And we go to primary schools. We have 6 in the Alexandra area that we go to with our old trailer, which is starting to die and cost us money. And it's set up like a workshop. So we'll work with at-risk primary school age kids who struggle with education, and we build staff and we talk about values and try and instill a different way of teaching and different systems of learning through mentoring with older men. So most of our people, our staff, are volunteers, but we do have a paid member there as well. So what we're looking for is, because between Central Otago and where I live and work in Dunedin as well, the weather can be very inclement. It's a wonderful thing to have a trailer that's covered, that we can work inside when the weather's terrible. Kids get kind of miserable when they're cold and wet, and they don't like doing things. So that's kind of what we're driving at as well. So we'd like to, the old trailer we have was bought probably about third hand, I think, a while ago, and it's starting to get a few rust spots and things like that, so look a bit dated. So that's what we're looking for. Being that I work for Boys Brigade, it's a charity, and so we come looking for other ways of doing funding, and that's why I'm coming with you guys. So yeah, that's what we do, and we look to help our schools that we have. We've got Alexandra Primary, the Terrace, Clyde, Paulbury and Omakau, and Roxbridge is probably outside of your groupings, just to name a few. And each term, so we arrive fortnightly at a school, and we spend the morning there from 9 till 12:30, and we have 6 boys that come through the whole term, and then we get a new group that come through from the other one, and do the whole thing again. So we build little projects out of old pallets and using power tools and being very safe and things like that. And so yeah, that's basically us. Any questions?
Any questions?
Yeah, I've got a couple just to help understand what. So this trailer does it service this area obviously, and you got some great feedback on what you're doing with those schools. Where else does it service? You mentioned Roxborough. Where else?
Yep, so we've got Roxborough as well, and we're just talking with some schools in Wanaka and in Cromwell as well. So
Right.
apart from the 6 schools we have, we also have 6 in the Dunedin area, which again outside, but that's where we started, and the Bay of Plenty in Hamilton as well. So it's kind of a national thing, but it's more of a regionally owned national thing.
Yeah, so I see on the balance sheet you supplied with Boys Brigade was the national balance sheet. Is that one of the trailers that's listed there, and who owns this, and where's that going to be located?
That was the one that the existing one we have.
Yes.
Yes, that would be retired because it's starting to fall apart. So, so Boys Brigade does own those. Yeah, as part of the funding that we do.
And it will own this one, and where will it be located?
In Alexandra.
Right.
So
And
as I say, I've got a staff member who lives on Centennial Ave.
okay, but owned by the national body.
Yes, owned and maintained. Yeah.
Any further questions? Oh, thank you very much for your time. Okay, so we've now got, we're going to go live to those in front of us now. So we've got Eve from the Central Otago Friendship Network. Welcome.
Would you like me to do
Just
this? Yeah.
either one of those two is fine.
So I'm great to be here today, and we are here to ask for some funding for 2 projects. One of them is a pilot we started last year that's been going well, and we're seeking funding for renting the foyer of the Central Cinema space to host our Monday social space, which is a group for mainly older people, particularly those who suffer from hearing loss, a social connection space that runs fortnightly for 1 hour on a Monday afternoon, and it just provides a quiet, welcoming space where we can go and chat. And the aim is to help those people that may not be able to connect socially in other settings, whether it's for mental health challenges or particularly the hearing loss side of things, because a lot of groups are quite noisy and it's difficult to communicate if they've got quite severe hearing impairment. So that's what we're applying for some funding for. Just a little bit of a how this impacts people's lives. All of the people that attend that group that's the kind of main social activity that they do. We've got a few people that are carers for family members with dementia, and even just yesterday when I was running that group, I picked a few people up, and one of those was, you know, like, I wasn't sure if I was going to come today. I've just had lots of stress. My family member's been at, you know, at the doctors, and, you know, they're obviously quite upset and anxious. And then after I, you know, picked them up at the end of the group, they were just like, oh, I'm so glad that I came. It was really just great to be able to share about what's going on in my life with these other ladies who understand and can support me. So that's just a little anecdote of how it makes a difference. Social support from peers and people who understand what you're going through makes a massive difference to your mental health, and by connection to their physical health as well. We know that when people are connected socially, that they have better health outcomes as well. So that's the one part of our funding application. The other part is that we have received feedback from the community in the Omako and Ophir areas that there is people who are living out there who are isolated or just in need of a bit of support to connect socially, and we have had people asking us, could we be doing something out there? And we want to make sure that our services are, you know, fitting the needs right, and so we are seeking some funding to explore what the needs are in the community. So that's a project to not necessarily start a project. We're wanting to explore, get feedback from the community, do some drop-ins, connect with local stakeholders out there and find out exactly what the needs are so that we can make sure our services are targeted, whether that's groups like our Monday Social Space or one-on-one support for people to connect, or supporting existing social groups out there to reach more effectively those that are isolated. So that's basically what we're seeking funding for. It would just be to pilot and do some exploring, and then we would be looking for further funding from other grants and community organisations to have ongoing funding for anything that came up as a project that we could support. So that's basically what we're looking for, and we have already run just taking our couple club out there to the Muddy Creek Cafe to just invite a few community members, and we had 4 locals already just come along to that and letting us know that since the hotel's closed down out there and there's just less social opportunities, and we had a range of some women and men come along to that. And so, yeah, just even though it was a small cohort, just a good range of people in the community who are saying, yeah, we do see that there is a need, there's less social opportunities for us to connect with neighbours. Yeah, and we'd look to link in with the managed care hub once they open out there as well. So we think it'd be good to start doing some forward planning in order to enable us to hit the ground running once those facilities are available. Yes, any questions?
Any questions, Tracy?
Yeah, obviously my patch, so I think it's great what you guys are doing. Just can you clarify if once you've done your pilot, what kind of time frame are you looking for to get this under?
Yeah, so that's a great question. We would see that we would like to, by the end of this year, have run some, whether it's drop-ins or starting to connect socially with people. We would like to have started by the end of this year. Have got a pretty quick turnaround because we are a small community organisation. If we see it, we can respond pretty quickly to that, and we are prepared to allocate some resources to that. As it depends, we want to make sure we know what's happening, whether it's like a community, you know, do they want as a community picnic or something like that would be best fit, or like small group stuff. So we can't, until we know what the needs are, we can't promise specifically what we can do, but we are committed to, as soon as we, you know, see what the needs are, starting to try and do something about that. And like I said, we've already taken our couple club out there to try and use the resources we've already got to provide space to drop in. And hopefully that answers the question. It depends on what the needs are, but I'd like to thank you.
Hey.
Yeah, just to help me kind of understand, obviously from your example, your pre-target will be how you're helping and making a significant difference.
Yeah.
And I look at your 4-stage process of kind of investigation, and I'm thinking your 2 community groups is kind of involve more consultation with people who you can interact with at the end of the process. So I'm just really trying to understand the fit of your process because you've got community, how it's come about is people in the community said, you know, I've heard from this person.
Yeah, I guess I see what you're saying, and we're just wanting to make sure that we are communicating with lots of people in the community so that we don't reinvent the wheel, basically. Sometimes when you start talking to people, there's already something in the community that's happening, and we don't profess to know everything that's happening in the Omako community at the moment. So it could be once we start, communicating a bit more specifically with people, that we find that there's already some things that we can more just be a conduit to that. So it's not a set in stone process. It's more just us making sure that we are not reinventing the wheel and using our resources where there could be somebody else's out there. And at the moment, it's just been sort of anecdotal evidence for us rather than directly connecting with the people who might need our services. And sometimes that process of connecting with those people who most need our services can be a little bit time consuming because those people are isolated. And so, yeah, hopefully that answers the question there. It's not a set in stone process that we start with that, but we want to make sure we had a thorough process to start with rather than not doing it.
So the 40 hours in your application, is that extra time that you wouldn't be doing?
At the moment, we do not have specific capacity to take on that project within our current budget and time allocation. So that's why we're looking for some funding to be able to take on that extra project, because it is, our services are pretty, when the groups are already running out pretty well, maxing out our allocation.
And you could tap into resources for that 40 hours, you can get this capability up, to do that.
I say sorry, what was that?
Or you've got capability to deliver.
Yes, and we do have one of our part-time staff is based in our own care area, so we'd look to use that. We have some other support people who work out there as well, so we kind of look to utilise those things. Yeah.
Christine?
Sorry, just a couple of Dimitri.
Yeah.
Obviously you talked about Home Karanova, but obviously I presume, or not very good thing to do, but does that extend towards Portburn and Betts and?
Yeah, we look to one
geographic.
Yeah, exactly. But I guess we're focusing specifically on two areas as the main, but people that obviously use those funds who are spread around the area. So
Yes, thank you.
And Lindley?
You've been going for a long time.
yes, yes. So our organisation has been running for a few years.
Been going into this morning.
Yes. Yeah, so sorry, 5 minutes is not long, so you want to speak too much that, but yes, our main services are that we provide facilitating community groups and experiences, and we provide one-to-one support to match people up with volunteers, as well as myself as coordinator can provide coaching and support to people individually as well.
Any further questions? Awesome, thank you very much. And just as a side note, if you're ever interested in trying to push for public transport in this area, Eve is your go-to person. Has been advocating for a while for that one. But we now have Andy Davey from Winterstellar. And sorry I wasn't able to get in touch with you. I had a bit of a technical malfunction with emails.
No problem, we all happen. One mechanical, one was on. So apologies for being late. I know the advice was to decline this application for funding. Can you do your advice? It was my time. Yes, what I found it very hard to do is to fit what we do into the funding opportunities that you provide. And I think I came here second quarter of the year and had a similar conversation. We go to Central Lakes Trust funding, so I mean that eliminates, we can't double dip into class, and we go to Creative New Zealand for the exhibition that we're going to take around the country this time to highlights the beautiful skies and lots of the rest of the country, but that means we can't come to you for the Creative Communities funding. And the timing of our development of the programme wasn't ideal as well for this round of funding applications. So, but the work we do, I believe, is something that I know that a lot of you have given me encouragement that you support in regards to the protection of the night sky. I'd like to take this opportunity now I'm here to give you a wee bit of update of what we're at with that. We've just concluded a very long week of public outreach events being Dark Sky Week, and our last Wednesday was up at the Vulcan with the St. Bathans and Cambrian Community Association, and they have given their support for that whole area to become part of the Winterstellar Astral Sites programme. I think that's part of my submission covered what that is. So St Bathans, Cambrian, Naseby on Friday night. There's about 50 or 60 from their community there, where we did an outreach and night sky guides, laser beams, telescopes and so on, which was, I think it's about 25% of the population. So that was a really good outreach event. Lauder have signed up for this one to start our full sites programme as well. So all the top of the Mandariki and into Manu Toto are showing their support for protecting the dark skies and seeking the council recognises them. We have held back from going public with these when Stella Astro Site's been talking with Tamer and Lance Longman, because we understand that the long process that Naseby has gone to get the Dark Sky International recognition for their community. And we don't want to steal their thunder and come in, because ours is just a 3-page application rather than a 7-year application. So as soon as they get that over the line, which we hoped would have been last Friday, but we expect it to be at their meeting next month in May. So that's the work we're doing. The byproduct of all this work in this community outreach is it's going to really strengthen our application to become Central Otago International Dark Sky Reserve. So that will be similar to Tekapo, Mount John, Mount area. So asking for your guys' support is great, because I know that there's things that need to be done with lighting divisions and stuff like that, but we do need some financial support. I look forward to speaking in the future about how we can structure that, but at the moment I found it very difficult to fit it into your current grants, timing and conditions. Sorry, this has been usually I've got pretty pictures to show you and stuff like that, and has anybody got any questions about what we're doing with Interstellar and Dark Skies and so on?
Do you see the opportunity? I know there's been some stuff with the lights on the bridge, some lights on buildings. Is there much opportunity in our resource consenting kind of stuff to get on the front foot?
Yes.
Is the council kind of on the front foot? Have we got things happening to help us?
I'd like to see more evidence, that you're on the front foot. I mean, I've just written a letter to NZTA because some of the lighting they're putting in, like around the junctions out here and down the night and day and so on, they're far harsher and far worse and far worse planned than what they're replacing, So I've not had a reply from NZTA about that, about what the luminosity is and why they've chosen that reply. But if you guys have got any sway over decisions that NZTA make in their decisions about what they're still using the survey.
Unlikely. I'm thinking more about subdivisions and new commercial buildings and kind of what's in their resource consent process that helps you.
Yeah, so I should understand. So the district plans just address this through the latest management. Yeah, so it's not about that. So I was
The people can move side contact into
NZTA's based in itself. But we chat to no one around, but it's a challenge. Will always be a challenge.
because things are put left in the area and I'm not thinking about that reasons confused conditions.
There's something new is still what I mentioned existing.
It's replacing the existing ones with worse lights.
Yeah,
That's what we're doing.
so anything that's put in has to be the district plan. Do you have you?
I CC'd someone to the communication hub with NZCA, but I can forward it to yourself.
Yeah, awesome. Cool. Roger.
One of the issues that was raised in regard to your application was that you've extended it beyond the Vincent ward. Now that sort of dilutes its impact in terms of the Vincent community board. Why did you extend it to, I think you were concerned about activities at Bendigo and possibly other areas that might impact the lighting in our area. That could you explain why you've extended it from the original concept?
It's trying to keep what the growth contained, and we have said we're not going to go beyond cargo. So it's not just looking for expansion. I'm trying to keep it contained. So we've got Glen Orkey is Sunday night. So they're a Winterstellar Astro site as well, and we've got members of Winterstellar that have been with us from the beginning, that are from like the Otago Peninsula, and that they want to use the same resources that we've gathered amongst us now, like with Professor Brian Boyle and Michelle Morris from QLDC and Leslie Van Gelder from the Southern Lake Sanctuary. So we've got a tremendous resource. And the beauty about night skies is, being able to see the stars that are, hundreds of thousands of light years away. Light is really efficient at travelling. So it's all very well protected navy, but if all they can see is the light growth from Alexandra, light travels. So we can't just concentrate in one small area. We've got to look after the area around it. I'm not sure whether that answered your question, but
there's sort of a natural boundary of hills and mountains surrounding our ward. I'm just thinking of that as a natural barrier that will actually suppress most of the lighting from World Bendigo, Roxburgh, etc.
It will to an effect, but even maybe if you're trying to take astro shots looking to the east, you've got the glow and the craze. That causes a big light dome over the gold mining activities there. I've had reassurance from Santana that they will do things differently if they get to go ahead. I mean, I don't know where that's at. I'm not fighting any battles for them for certain, but I'd like to think that they would do things differently. So,
are there any other grant specific questions? Thank you very much.
okay.
And Tim from the Alexandra Blossom Festival, welcome.
Thank you.
So you'll hear about the application and the accountability report today.
Indeed, which way would you like to do it?
So yeah, the accountability report will just be later in the meeting.
Okay, no, cool, thank you. Before I start, this community behind here, I think what she's doing with her community policies is excellent. Like, I do a lot in health and social. I'm trying to do some projects in that area. We, as New Zealanders, don't look after our seniors very well, and our health system is creaky, and we're not, particularly down here, our region, Queensland Lakes, essentially Otago District Council. We, in terms of away from a main hospital, out of 2 hours and more, we make that 80% of the community or the country, and that number is huge. And what you're doing from a social sense, as people get older, anxiety gets higher, and your home becomes your prison. So I commend you for what you're doing and what you're asking grants. So I couldn't think of better things, to be honest, than doing that. So yeah, congratulations to you and your team. It's really cool to hear. Alexandra Blossom Festival. Look, we're coming to support the request council support for grant funding again. I know we were here 12 months ago, and a bit of a robust debate, and we've Jaden's kindly contributed some of his time to have a conversation sort of a month ago, again, on what we're doing and why we're doing it, and why we think it's really, really important to our community. There's an economic sense to what we're doing and a social sense, and I think both are equally important. So I just want to put that across. We had an independent economic report done a couple of years ago that showed that weekend shows an 8 to 10% uplift in spend on that weekend for our local and wider communities, including as far as Cromwell out there, where people come in. And it is a huge promotional event for our region. It's a massive promotional event for Alexandra as news grows through the gorge, as we know, and will continue to do so. So it is a really, really, I think, important event to market us, and we were lucky to get some additional marketing funding last year as a wider MB funding, which we saw huge and great results from, and we're starting to see even people coming from overseas to this event. So I think it highlights our region well, economically adds to our region, and socially, one of the things and why we come for this grant, and I understand this is right, when Mr. Grant was initially, or the contribution to council initially was through a different grant process provided, was to allow us to provide what is known as early bird tickets to our locals. So they're highly discounted to the ones on the day for our encounters, and makes it affordable for all of our community where we are in a cost of living crisis, and we all know that, and that's a national problem, not just a local problem. So we're again looking for council support to allow us to an inflationary sort of process, sort of world, which we had a real uptick on last year. Will be no surprise there from what we've seen over the past few years, to support us and provide some stability there to try and keep tickets affordable so we can get everybody there. And that includes the free tickets we get sponsorship for primary school kids in the local area, and for people who really can't afford it and things like that. We think we're bringing the community together. We think it's very special. A lot of people say we've been here longer than me, although I've come in as a kid as well, and it also brings back those kids and families for that as well. So we are looking for the council support again. We know the councils under local governments are tight constraints at the moment, so I fully recognise and appreciate the challenge that you face on the budgetary process, but we think this is a really important thing that we want to preserve and maintain. And a non-for-profit, by definition and professional opinion, is not sustainable. It's non-for-profit, they never are. They require bequest sponsorship grants, and other grants are becoming more challenging as well as things cut down. So, and we have got some great sponsors that have been very supportive, but that can change any time. And sometimes having that council support assists us with getting third-party grants, and it's a third-party sponsorship as well, knowing that the councils are behind it as well as the voluntary trustees and things like that. So we do very much appreciate what you guys do. We always have. And we think it's very, very special as long as it's running an event. There's economic benefits. There's massive social benefits. There's no doubt about that. And we're just looking to continue that support in some way or form with the PCB and the council. Sure.
Thank you. Right, any questions? Tony?
The NDIE was a one-off grant. There was 15K last year. Was it one-off?
It was. It's come back this year. We understand it wasn't going to. We have a submission in, which what that allows us to do is we'll fund 50% out of our marketing and promotion spend. It's directed at that, nothing else. So we need to put our budget's been submitted and shows what that is, and we'll fund that. We had a really good use of, again, this money actually flows through our local marketing too, in terms of the people who provide it and go out and do their thing in the marketing world. And it's there, but we weren't expecting it, so it was at a bonus. We've lost this year. We've actually got, we've got a committee meeting tonight. We've got a 25K delta already year on year there. Part of that is about 11K deficit from, we had a really good festival last year, but inflationary, not revenue measures, resulted in 11K swing year on year. That's what we're dealing with, the challenges, and we're really having conversations on pricing. We know how to do that, but it's trying to balance getting people there and the importance of this quite special event, really. I can't name another one that gets everybody there while managing the books. And part of that delta was a 5K that we got from a creative communities funding last year from a more central government funding, which isn't there this year as well. So, you know, those things are getting all tight at the same time. It's a perfect world of storm, right? So we're balancing that, and depending on the support we get from the VCB and the wider council, we'll have to look at how it goes and things like that. Sure.
Yeah.
You also probably haven't talked much about the social investment that you make, like the cultural groups you support with floats and things. What sort of been on that a little?
It's amazing, but I can't name another one. If someone else could, I would challenge you too, because it really, I think, quite special. So we're involved in Indian communities, the Chinese communities, the local communities, the Scottish communities, you name it, and we're sourcing out from everywhere. And so it is, the diversity and cultural inclusion is quite special, and we see that in the parades, we see that in the shows. And you know, arguably in a time when the social divide has been growing, rightly or wrongly, this, I think, you know, we talk a lot about the importance of culture in it, be it sport, be it business, be it councils. I think culturally what this does for our community is very special, and I think most would agree with that through the generations and the people when you talk to them and get out there, how important this is too, that it builds culture for our region. And that's what we're trying to preserve and maintain it so everybody in our community gets the benefit from it, which is quite special or something.
Any, Teresa?
Just one question, and maybe, hopefully I haven't missed it in your report, but have you quantified, this may be quite hard to do, quantified the volunteer hours and the in-kind, or is it just like a two in the 2.5 days?
No, it's massive. So we had a couple of things in the accountability report where there's been a change. We used to include the some in-kind revenue, which nets out with the cost, which the change in incorporated society and standards next year. We've just put it in the note, it's 9, which had a couple of. And an example there, actually, I was just thinking about there before is BDO, for example, we put in a cash contribution. We do a lot for communities who don't really speak up on, and you name it, we're probably in it. But that's that's our social moral compass for the community. We have a 5,000 contribution to 5 million good and kind. I can tell you right now, our goods and kind is 25 to 30,000 without looking. I live and breathe this. It is a full of draining thing, and it's the right thing to do, and that won't change. And but the stuff that Foggy Hogan again, they've got a note in there. They come out from all that. Yeah, we and the volunteers and the gatekeepers, they come back each year. It's the right thing. It's got every generation been involved, which is really neat. It would be huge. I think it would be huge. Yeah.
Well, thank you for all the good work that you're doing. Have it gone unnoticed.
Anyone else? I was just going to ask, so obviously you've asked for 24,500. The recommendation from staff is based on last year's decision to effectively put a sinking lid on us, because that's what policy said at the time.
Yeah.
What would the impact be for you guys without that 10 grand?
It's look, as I thought I'd go back, we're already at 25 down. Now I say it's probably a 20. There's a bit of a timing difference of some costs on it, so that's where we're starting. So, and when I did my report for the community, for the trustees last night, it'll show that our bank reserves are now, I think it's $23,000 down year on year. Okay, so that's where, and that's having. I think I think we had this festival from the numbers perspective last year, even versus the 65th one 2 years ago. So what we're doing is right. It's just that cost inflation really is quite strong. So that answer for you, Jane, it's going to depend on how our suppliers are usually very good as well. They're community focused, but last year they had to pass on, and I don't know if we're going to have to do it again. And so we are filming up a budget. We're very good at budgeting and knowing as we set it. But it's getting tougher, and that's coming down to a pricing or a support. I think it's as tough as it's been, and I think we really see that across all communities and some charities at the moment. You know, if our wider network does a lot in the space, and it's challenging to find. It's a challenging time out there. So we are hopefully firming up with some key sponsors there support. That would be quickly, but they've been very good. But it's moving best to get that certainty as well. I think the bigger thing is, Jaden, is knowing that council's there just in a support sense. I think sends a very good karma to the wider people who support this, rightly or wrongly. That's potentially how humans operate. And it's good to know they're there, that we're there. You know, whereas if we flipped it and we weren't there, kind of an extreme, not saying we weren't, they'd go, if they're not there, why are we there? It's a natural human question.
So what would be the impact if you got secured longer term funding than just an annual process for that ripple effect?
I think what it would do is it gives us a really good baseline work with ensuring we keep the cheaper price tickets for our locals and you know the ability for the schools, the primary kids and someone's responsible also get a free ride. You know, these things are expensive now, and it's pretty sad socially. Let's be honest, there really is where we're at as a country, not just as a community. And I think as a community to offer this just after spring, after a pretty brutal winter for some people, you know, and a cold winter, is quite a lovely thing for people to come out and have a bit of a social pick me up and fun and things like that. So we're trying to preserve that, you know. Could we ramp up pricing and do this and that? Of course we could, but we'd see probably those people we most want to put this on for diminish out of that. And that's our sole obligations to try and preserve that.
And that's where you're really playing that role, is that not-for-profit supporting the community?
Absolutely. And everything, the grants, the sponsorship, ticket sales we get in, all flows through the community too. So if you look at cost base, it's going into the bits and the prize money from the floats goes into the community games. It goes into, Grants can do fantastic things. I think this is, firstly, I think it's a special thing the community could have and that we need to preserve because it is a festival for the community and it brings everybody together, but it flows through into the right spots as well and actually helps us. So I do think it's a really important event and it puts us on the map, Alexandra. It really does.
And thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thanks for everything you guys do. And hopefully this year, the media will be a little bit nicer to us after we make these decisions. Right, so that concludes our public forum. So we'll move on to page 7, which is the confirmation of the minutes. So could I get somebody to move that the public minutes of the VCB meeting held on the 18th of March 2025 be confirmed as a true and correct record? Di, seconder. Tony, all in favour? Aye, against, carried. In the right place. Right, and just a reminder to keep your declarations of interest updated and just be vigilant and step aside if there's any decisions. We've already had Martin, who has left due to his conflict with the Blossom Festival, so he won't be participating in the promotions grant.
And can I delete from that list the Nanaboo and Recreation Reserve Committee?
Oh, is there anybody else? Yeah. So that will move us on to page 16, which is the 2024/25 Community and Promotions and Events Grant Applications. Second funding round, and so we've got Rebecca on Teams and Ali here in person.
Thank you. And can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Thank you, and apologies I can't be with you in person today. I'm at a meeting of the Otago Community Trust, doing much like what you are doing around the table today. I've had to step out to do this. So this is the second grants round for the 24-25 financial year for both the community and promotions grants. Annually, in terms of the community grants, Vincent Community Board has $120,000 to distribute, and for this round you had $28,000 left in the pot to be able to provide grants with. We received 2 applications over the time period, both which were included with the board papers and requesting a total amount of $7,698. The first was from the Central Otago Friendship Network. They requested $2,698 towards the venue hire. I've combined those 2 projects, which is the venue hire in Alexandra and also that the support for establishing a new service in Omako. When I asked about the ongoing funding for that particular initiative, Eve advised that the support from the board would allow them to explore other funding possibilities, and I've included that in my assessment of the report. I've recommended that you fund it. The second application is from the Boys Brigade for a trailer, which we've heard about, and you've read those fabulous letters of support. We've had it's been a bit of a to and fro with that organisation just to get it in front of the right decision-making body for the right decision, but I'm comfortable that Vincent would be well with $5,000, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions? No, thanks, Rebecca.
Sorry, just getting to the report. So you've got 3 applications in this funding round through the promotions and events grants, Blossom Festival, Winter Stellar, and Otago Cricket. The total of all the applications would be greater than the 50,000 for the 25-26 year because all these events are within that timeframe. However, the recommendations that I've given you would not take up that full amount of budget, so that is okay. With regards to the Blossom Festival, as Tim said, they have got an application sent to the Regional Events Promotion Fund, which has happened in the gap between making this application to this board. They should have a decision on that funding by mid-May. And as Darren indicated, the recommendation I've given you to consider is in line with your discussions last year around the sinking mid on that funding. Winterstellar, the application was very wide ranging and it was really quite difficult to determine how it aligned best with the purpose of the promotions and events grants. I'd had a chat with Andy as to how, what options there were to refine it. Just time frame, they didn't have the ability to refine back into something that was really quite specific and aligned with the community board promotions and events budget. I think there's some work we can do with Andy to help him actually work better within the framework. I'm sure that he's delivering some projects that would fit well. However, there's how that ties in with other funders. One of the things you'll see in the grant assessment is around the district plan rural review. That is a component that could result in consideration for new rural-based dark sky reserves. So I know Andy's had some initial discussions with the planning team, and that will be their focus in the interim for now. Otago Cricket, as you know, last year they were unsuccessful in funding just due to timeframes and having the funding pre-allocated. One thing that I did consider that if this is likely to be an event that continues into the future, it could be a good time for Otago Cricket to begin discussions with our parks team, and if it's something that would be a more permanent solution and coming back to the board every year for funding towards the cost of that. And hopefully everything else is on the report.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Ali? So I thought we'd start with the promotions and events so that we can get Martin back in at some stage. So do you just want to, happy to do what we normally do and just go one by one? Shall we start?
Sorry, I'm just formulating a question prior to this. Hypothetical question. If I'm allowed to ask one of these. In the event that an entity became a line item on a budget, in the event that an entity that received that became a line item on a budget, how would that affect the balance of the grants, given that we haven't actually, this LTP hasn't been done? So, because what I'm seeing is a timing issue. How would that, if that was to be proposed going forward, how would that look? Do you want to go?
No, I'm going to crack. You can ask my view on this. And I guess museums is probably a good example we could use, right? So we've essentially from your community grant fund taken that same portion out that is now essentially a line item, bring fenced to the museum fund. That's happened. That will be what is applied through the new LTP. So essentially, if you were looking at doing that with another grant that you already have, what our suggestion to staff would be is that you reduce your promotion grant by the same levels that you're putting in as a line item into another area. That would be the recommendation. Otherwise, you're going to be rating your community grant. Now, how you rate for that, whether that is promotions grants are rated at a different differential than other grants, so that's something that would have to be considered.
I think that from a policy perspective, you would probably want to amend your grants policy to enable that, because at the moment it's written as a contestable fund for all these types of grants. So that probably can have a conversation with the council table to enable the councils to sort of proceed with them. But from a practical perspective, what Dylan said could happen, just might be slightly got the toss in front of me that could be a sort of conflict with the intent of the encourage.
what if we were just saying, again, all hypothetical, we were just saying to council, take X amount out for whatever this potential thing is, and then they do it. Can they do that even if it's against the grant policy? Because we're now saying it's not even part of our grants.
Council is the only body
Yeah.
that can go against their own policy, because council sets a policy, so boards and officers need to follow that policy. Council does have the discretion, essentially be an amendment to their policy, so yeah, absolutely the council can with the
Again, fully hypothetical.
Well, but it is the guts of the conversation that we've got at Blossom Festival, we've got a cricket thing where we're talking to people about securing some longer term funding.
Sure.
And if we do that on a contestable fund, it just takes the contest out for all these other little ones. So,
It's you can underline is that you reduce your contestable pot.
by some degree.
Is it truly contestable?
Well, that's
That's,
the table decides that, right? So if you make a suggestion that there's a portion of funding that comes from your promotions grants and goes to essentially a line item rather than a grant, you take that contestability away and future boards don't have that decision and don't want any longer. That's what you need to weigh up. I mean, council obviously would have. So.
Okay, thank you. Those hypotheticals.
I suppose Ali may remember this better than I do, but I do understand that Blossom Festival was once a line item in the budget, and that was changed to be a contestable grant back in the 1995. That's correct.
That's correct, yeah.
But this has happened before. That's been changed. I don't know why it was changed, but I presume it was changed for the reason. And he's probably just pointed out that it didn't leave much room for others.
You know, what was the conversation when it changed?
I can, that's what the time of that policy.
Thanks.
So, that was following conversations, with the council around making it, a truly contestable grants policy. So our then CEO, had come from Auckland where it was. So that was, sort of the genesis of all of this, was, oh gosh, about 6 years ago now, 5, 6 years ago. When all grants were made fully contestable, and that was at council table. So you're right, until that point in time, it was a line item, and there were a few line items in the RPP from across a range of community boards, which leave very little money for contestable funding. Again.
We're contestable fundings, the amounts we've got now has gone up, so, yeah, but.
No, just because we had a chat on that and so much on the jet, I think it's exactly what happened. And one of the discussion and frustrations we had last year was when that happened, and I don't think it's anyone that's read some representation, that don't worry, we'll be fine with your funding, noting the contestability, there was sort of the verbal on Blossom Festival would be fine at the time, and that's where the just came off it, rightly or wrongly. Now, I wasn't there either. That was sort of feedback we had on it.
Yeah, because it's really challenging because a past board or council can't saying behind the scenes, this is what's going to happen, can't really hold a future board or council to that, so.
will be predetermined.
Yes, exactly. And on that predetermined note, I'd like to make clear these are all hypotheticals. The board is just looking at a whole lot of things in this LTP process, and obviously this has come up and we've got staff in the room, so it's a good chance to ask.
Sorry.
But the other dynamic that's changed is the districtisation conversation, where we're talking a couple of events that are district-wide, a bit like Winterstella. We've had that conversation if they're outside our patch or inside our patch. And those two events, the conversations are bigger than just BCB.
Yeah.
There you go.
There's like I said, significantly being consulting on inbound, which again, it's that same remote. It is not an event just for promo, it's an event that would benefit cargo here. So it's usually being funded through a rate that is already being secured through through all the we have in the past at council, we've had the conversation about council holding a grant fund for events to be able to secure events that are all of secure targets. So they are the board, they sit at the council table and I think there are a few events, not only in this board but in other boards that could actually qualify for a council grant. But at the moment, there is no funding sitting at the council table just looking to help them.
And on that note, for now, we'll just keep it within the policy that we currently have. But no, thank you for bringing that up, Tracy and Tony. It's been good to get a bit more clarity on that. So yeah, what's before us right now is we'll start with the Blossom Festival. So we've had a request for 24,500. Staff recommendation based on last year's decision to effectively put a sinking lid on that would drop it to 15,000. I would note that obviously the grant policy wording was slightly changed, which now means that we're not, Blossom wouldn't be required to become self-sufficient within that time frame. Still suggested, but is no longer part of the policy that we were bound to 12 months ago. It's a preference. It's a preference now. And so I thought it'd be really good to get people's views on, are we happy with continuing last year's decision on that sinking lid based on the policy as it sat at the time? Or should we be reviewing that again, given the policy's changed?
So, Jim, my thanks, I just want to reiterate my comments here, is that this is your first round of funding at the 25-26.
Yeah.
So, remembering, last time when we got to the second round, there was no money in the pot.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, my point before.
Yeah, the hypothetical question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're also heading a year out before we've actually done the LTP. So anyway.
The resolution will state that subject.
Subject to the long-term plan, yeah. So I thought we could, Lindley, what's your thoughts on this one?
I was just clarifying, is there still 9,500 left in the promotion and the red grant that isn't included here?
That's for the current financial.
Yes, the current.
It will be.
So we could measure that.
Good financial.
Yes.
Just asking Mike. If it's allocated in this current financial year, it will fall into a reserve specific to promotions and events. Well, yeah, it's really good. Or I have to come back to the board on that. Some wards have, like I know, Tibet, for example, has the dedicated reserves. Other wards, it falls into general reserves. So I will check right now. So the total.
I checked yesterday.
Oh, aspects, what is it? Yeah.
And they will have specific grants, so for the cost item, so there's reserved for the cost centre.
Yeah.
And there's nothing to say, because you've still got money in this year's fund, the resolution could say, use funding of this year to fund whatever that's in front of you today.
Well, what I would like to look at, because it's a real fun, bad tightening and gloom and doom. But when you look at Blossom Festival, it's kind of a shining light. And I'd like to spend a bit money in the hand and put it on the holiday. That's what I was getting.
Oh, so you're saying what, on top of the 15,000?
Yeah.
Would that take us over what we've requested?
Just.
Because we can't do that, can we? From memory from last time.
No,
Oh, no.
24,500 is the
Takes right on.
maximum.
Yeah, band to max.
Okay, that's what Lindley's proposing. Tracy?
To be honest, I'm actually in favour of what Lindley is. I like the idea of actually being able to maintain that higher level of support for the Blossom Festival.
Okay. Tony?
Yeah, for sure. I think 15's the answer. I think there's more than that.
Okay. Guy?
Yeah, I'm happy with that. Okay, one thing we brought up, or found out last year is that the Blossom Festival still has a rainy day fund in place.
I believe
Is that?
I need to, I've heard these rumours, I know nothing about it.
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
names.
There is nothing formal other than the stock market says last year.
Yeah.
Well, the then Bear Tim, I think, like 160,000, it's sitting somewhere in case there is a rainy day. Just be nice to know if it was.
Yeah, so I can ask to find that out because some names, but I know it's been nothing about it and nothing's been engaged.
I'd say good luck. I've been asking about it for 2 years now,
Yeah.
almost 3, so.
And the risk identified with it was that the trustees were we're a risk in terms of age and tenure.
Where does it sit in the accounting system is probably what I'm asking.
It's not there, completely.
It's private, it's a private.
Yeah, that can be a conversation for the next round. And, yeah. Right, so, Roger, what's your opinion on this increasing back to 24,000?
I'm happy to go along with Lindsay's suggestion.
What about the line item plan?
That is a conversation for another time. Yeah,
Okay.
that's for the aspect. So I get this right, we are suggesting, so we're saying approving 24,500 for the Alexandra Blossom Festival, which includes 9,000 left over from
Financial
the
year.
current financial year. So we can, does that work for everyone?
And now they're just checking, there's 9,500 left, is it? So, yeah, so
Oh, so that hits us.
that's, so we just said you'd like to go to the maximum.
Yeah.
39.
Okay, so 9,000 sitting there, so yeah, that gets us where we want to be. And you've got that.
So okay, financially, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. We'll just pause for a second.
So, 24,500.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
500.
To drain that cattle.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, just noting that it is still contested for next year, so it's not a guarantee for next year. We're just using what remains from this financial year. Right, Winterstellar Charitable Trust with a request for 20,000. The current staff recommendation is 0. Thoughts?
As much as I'd like to support Winterstellar, I think there are too many holes in their existing application. And I think it does need to be revised.
And there is a lot of conversation around that, isn't there?
Yeah.
So you're just a bit early for that, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. It's whether it's the Vincent community is going to benefit from it.
Yeah, versus the wider district.
And is it a promotion event for the community?
Yeah, and that's the other question with that. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with saying, you know, we've been quite supportive of Winterstellar over the years, and there's nothing to say that they can't come back if there's a round two.
They'll be around closing in July for September decision.
Yeah. So they've got, so if you guys are happy to support Andy and the team to get a application that's a bit more in line. That'd be great.
I think the general consensus is that we support the concept and the idea, but it just needs a little bit more.
Yeah. Yes.
It'd be quite good if we can use that word. So if that's the direction from the board, is that you like the idea of the concept, but you need a little refined. You're talking about bids.
Yeah, I mean, when I look at the application and I see the significant cost and where they're going, they're travelling international, but
Yes.
you know.
We're not going to
it's
say
quite
things
beyond.
specific to Vincent.
And then their $3,000 that they receive as part of their, I guess, the entrance fees. It doesn't all marry up.
Yes.
So, and I understand that they need to be, I guess, what I'd like to know is that, our board 100% supports the whole concept, but we need a little bit more refinement for the.
Yeah, no, Andy gets back to actually select a project,
Yeah,
work it up and then apply.
rather than the entire.
Is there anything in the application that you thought that was one that the VCP would want to support?
Well, obviously, all the stuff to do with.
Yeah, my only concern was because as it was stated in the report was, would that affect other applications they were making if we specified one particular topic in there? And given we don't have that information, I think that'd be a risky one for them.
Yeah.
And there's another funding round coming up soon, so there's nothing stopping them. Okay, and then Otago Cricket Association, so they've requested 10,000, staff recommendation of 5,000. Thoughts?
I'm happy to support that.
Fine.
I'm happy to support staff recommendation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brian?
Yeah, I'm happy to support that.
Roger? Yeah. Okay, perfect. So that is our promotions and events done. Do we need to move those separately?
Yeah. So other than declining the application for Winterstellar, would you like to write a note about the sport for project or in the resolution?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Yep.
Right, Rebecca?
I just voice caution on putting support in the resolution for any, because it could then predetermine a future decision. So I just think you should be clear on the decline and the reason for the decline rather than indicating future support. You could do general support for the concept, but be really loose.
Yeah, would recommend be a better, recommend that they reapply for the second round?
Yep.
Okay.
With the idea formed or.
Yeah, with a, yeah.
So we do.
Yeah, one second, someone.
After your resolution.
Yeah, well, but does somebody want to send them to? Yeah.
Just need to move, we'll just need to move it.
Yeah, yeah, no, we'll move it and then we'll. Okay. So is, give you a chance to have a quick look at that. Somebody happy to move A, B, C, and D? Yep.
When B's not right.
So what's this looking at?
Five, somehow we need to.
You need to include that
Include the.
9.5.
Okay, and the friendship network.
No, it's.
Oh, that's community grants. Yeah.
There also needs to be a resolution either added to each of these or it's in resolution, these will say.
Yeah.
Okay, could we add an E then for that subject?
Yeah, I've actually got that for the remainder. I'll just add both of those.
Mhm.
Mine isn't subject to.
Okay.
Promotions are subject to.
Yeah. Yeah, because we're a year ahead of ourselves.
So Jeff, do you want the notes about the consents and plans and licenses on yours, Rebecca, or do you not need that either?
No.
Thoughts on them? Do you need?
Oh, sorry.
Do you need the? Normally we have this portion as well. I need that for promotion.
It's sort of, yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
the policy, it's probably pure.
Okay, so that's the 24,000, but 9,500 from.
so we need to note that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we need to have a separate resolution for that, or can we just say which includes the 9,500?
Rebecca?
I think you could have it either way. You could have it as that 24,500 is allocated to the Blossom Festival, funded 5,000, whatever the figures are, 9,500 from 24-25 financial year, and the remainder from the 25-26. Subject.
Yeah. It's the wrong way around, but yeah.
And while this has been typed up, I'll just say welcome to all those who have just joined us for the next part of the meeting.
Which includes the $1,000 remainder from 24-25 year, just so that it's really clear.
Nice.
From the. Let's just celebrate it. Put the wrong way around, but it does make sense.
You got it all.
Can I just add for the, so the board is approving something that council has already signed. So in B, we need to make that subject to the long-term plan being through, because through deliberations, that could get changed by council, the amount, and then the board would need to.
Yeah.
Can we add that as well?
I do have that.
Can we add that as an F?
Yeah.
Or
So
yeah.
that all of them are subject?
Or only promotions are subject.
Yeah, only the promotions and events.
Okay.
Only the
Seriously.
one that-
Make that an E.
Just get this. You got it.
To-
See, welcome to local decision making at work.
So like first.
Yeah.
Cool, so we're happy? Right, is somebody here to move A through to F?
I'll move it.
Roger, seconder, Tracy, all in favour? Aye, against, carried. Thanks everybody. And now if somebody wants to let Martin know he's welcome to.
Not real. He's not there.
Oh,
I'll text them.
okay, I'm gonna say, can you text us, please?
Bring the tin goose.
Yes. All right, so that now moves us on to our community grants. So the first one here is the Central Otago Friendship Network, who have requested $2,698, and staff recommendation is for us to do that in full. We've also got one from the Boys Brigade New Zealand for $5,000, and staff recommendation is for that to be the full $5,000. So any thought to the Friendship Network? Okay.
I'm happy to see that.
And I will, as before, add those two other clauses in the bottom.
Yeah.
And so.
And Boys Brigade New Zealand for the trailer? Okay, so we're happy with those. Awesome.
Sarah, can I clarify what are you adding, please?
We don't
No, we
need
don't
that
need that one for this one. No.
So we just think we'll leave the, what will become C and.
Yeah, because that's the already budgeted.
Yeah. Got it.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I'll reformat it.
Yeah. So we were saying that Tracy was going to move A, B and C, and Tony was happy to second. Oh yeah, we'll give Martin, we'll give Martin a quick second. If you want to look behind you, are you happy with?
I mean, I can't, no.
That's community. That's community grants,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Here's the game. Cemetery friendship. Yep, I'm happy.
Okay, so it's been moved by Tracy, seconded by Tony, all in favour? Aye, against, carried.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rebecca. Thanks, Ellie and Dylan and everybody else involved and all the groups that applied. Right, so now we'll move to page 21, which is the Alec Blossom Festival Accountability Report 2024.
Cool, thank you everybody. So we submitted the council seeking report, which was good. Just to say they have been reviewed by an auditor and a clean opinion was provided, which was good. Very minor comments back about simply noting minutes were approved, but just a minor on the minutes rather than not producing the minutes, which was good. Happy to bring we did from control perspective, which was also good, and they can be taken as read essentially from the accuracy perspective. They speak themselves. I've already talked before about the doubt between the years and the challenge to that, so I won't go there again. So I'll really just open for people to put any questions on the accounts themselves and in general.
Any questions, comments?
I was going to ask about the 6,000 free tickets, but you explained it earlier.
Yeah, so, and it nets out with the revenue you'll see with this, the sponsorship that comes through, so on a cash and then on basis, which is good. And that way, actually not a cash basis for those, we get the tickets back that come in and then we invoice for them at a price to the sponsor who is on that, as with some of the rides as well.
Tracy?
Just more comment about how wonderful the Vincent Ward is, because not only does Blossom Festival do free ride for the kids and, you know, the discounted entry, etc. for the locals, but also the Central Otago AMP show does the free shows for the kids as well. So what a great thing Vincent is.
Vincent is a great word, isn't it?
No, it's not hypothetical, it's 100% fact.
Those own calculations on second chain as well. Yeah, it's amazing that is.
Oh, yeah. Great from Vincent, so.
Cool. Anyone else? Roger.
I guess, wanting to keep the prices for, especially for families down and for early people registering early. But with all of the costs going up, how realistic is it
There's going to be some grey, it's probably the point, Roger. We had a good debate on this already, the first meeting back, we had that debate, and how it works on models from the community mapping what's on Saturday. We'll probably skew a bit more maybe to the outsiders to preserve that lower funding, that's what grant is. We've not set yet because we're going to firm up our cost base first to then work backwards to what we need to do as a delta essentially. But we know we need, any non-profit needs to still break even, or we can't do that, what it needs to do. So we're very conscious of that. So we'll work back to what we need to do when we turn this cost back into the street for the estimated decisions. But the aim will be to preserve that, absolutely preserve that is what we want to do.
Okay. Just from those conversations, is the early ticket registration, there's a little bit of insurance each weather.
There's a bit of that too. Absolutely.
So that's kind of one of the big benefits, and we're getting more risky rather than less risky.
Yeah, there is. I mean, not last year, the year before, we had a terrific weather run up, and we were very lucky that weather guys came out Saturday morning. And we had low early ticket sales as a result of that. And luckily the weather came out and everybody came on the nations to save it at the last minute. So there's that balance as well. In the snow. Yeah, I wouldn't want to see that one. I'd be sitting out there. That's for sure.
Were you one of them, Lulu?
So given that the other mysterious reserves potentially exist, so that is something you are looking into?
I'll have to look into it. I mean, I've heard it, no one's approached me on it. It's I have some names that I'll go and make some phone calls to. Literally know nothing about it apart from this mythical reserve.
It is mythical.
It is mythical, and it doesn't seem very good that if it is not mythical, approaching and acknowledging where it is and how it works. So I do need to do something.
Yeah. And then I said one more question, which was, are you guys going through the process of changing your constitution?
Done.
Good. Perfect.
It'll be up here. It's on me. I'm going to put it under mine rather than Martin's not in a conflict. It's treasurer, so it's all done.
And the new constitution got launched with the Liberated Societies registered as of last week, and now we'll just have to take the changes across to the charities registration. That'll be done by June.
No. And so it's cleared up your election of a chairperson, so there's not a massive conflict of interest between it and the VCB?
Yeah, correct. Absolutely.
That's good.
Just want to compliment Tom on the way he's put that call.
Oh, thank you.
And thank you to you and the committee and Martin and everybody else in the community that's involved. It was the best. It's been noted. It's a great community event.
No, thank you. We appreciate it as well, and the wider support the Scouts and Dancers community. I just want to know as well.
Thank you. Ellie, is there anything you wanted to add?
No, I think that everything was really clear in the report, and great to have it on time. So, thank you.
Thank you. Right, somebody happy to move that we receive that report? Tracy and Tony, all in favour? Aye, against, carried. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you very much.
And now we will move on to agenda item 25.3.4 on page 42. Tony, are you using them? Which is the Menaburn Reserve Management Plan submissions. So we've got members of the public who have made submissions and wish to be heard. So we will do that. Now, how many submissions do we have in total?
We've got 4 total submissions.
17.
There you go. And then
Yeah. Pretty good.
One of the best.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I just, before I invite the first person, I do actually just want to take a moment. Obviously, all staff that have been a part of this, thanks to them. But I really want to point out Maria and Deborah for the efforts that they've put on with this, because they've had the play strategy and the LTP all going at once. And it's been quite a big effort from them and the work that they've put into this. So I just want to especially acknowledge them and their work. And now we will crack on. So first we have got Christine Williamson. And just a reminder that you guys have got 5 minutes.
So, yeah, Chris Williamson, I come wearing a handbell equestrian. I'm speaking on my own account, but also as a representative of the Dunstan Adult Riding Club. I also belong to the Dunstan Equestrian Centre. And I also obviously do a lot of hiking and trekking on my 2 ponies. Now, one of the things I just wanted to say first was that we all know that Nannerburn is a beautiful place. It's a place of beauty, serenity, and peace. And it's a lovely place to go to for everybody. There's been notable plantings made by the Nannerburn Working Group. And we all have a sense of history when we go there. The history of the ice skating over a long time, coming up from university, ice skating on the dam, on the vestiges of the dam itself, on the little beaches beside the dam, of the rock formations. It's amazing. And when we think about history, what I think has been missed in the report was the fact that this area has had a long history of horse riding. And it is evidenced through the spars which are on the fences in the part which is closest to the rail trail, for example. And many of us as horse riders have spent many a lovely hour and a half or 2 meandering around up in those areas, taking in the beautiful views and then just enjoying some time on our ponies. And as the Dunstan Adult Riding Club, we do think that it's got real potential for places for special equestrian things to occur in the future. So that would be one thing. And one of the things is that we have tended to ride in the part to the southeast of the old ice skating and in the area where the pines are towards the rail trail. And one can do a sort of a figure of 8 kind of a loop around there. I've also walked along the edge of the dam, not with my horse, a bit like some of those rocky corners, but have been in there and did a little bit of keeping the path clear a couple of times because it's a lovely place to meander there too. So we really feel very strongly that horse riding should be included in this plan. We know that horses and bikes and walkers and dogs on leads and people picnicking and people skating are all consistent with horse riding. When a horse makes a track, it actually leaves a track, a very narrow track. It's a wide creature, but it leaves a very narrow track. And as a question of manure, the manure is something which is vegetation. It has been shown in, and I'm sorry I haven't got the quote in this, but it's to do with the limbs and to do with the trails. It has been shown that it doesn't actually spread weeds in the way that people think it might, nor disease. And if there were any shared parts of the trails that might be established, then those will be places where the manure could be kicked off the track by the rider to make sure that the bike person following doesn't get an interesting mishmash. So I think that all of those things will be consistent with horse riding and it should continue to be allowed to happen there. I just wanted to say that I add into this is that I'm actually concerned about the idea of freedom camping out there. I'm concerned because it's actually, it is isolated, it has a feeling of isolation. I'm not sure whether it is an area that's going to be consistent with having people there. Freedom camping and not us and it not being monitored in some way. So that raises my concern in terms of freedom camping. And the other question is whether there should be some toilets, because if we're going to promote this area for use by all of those aforementioned people, probably toilets are a good idea, to make sure that we don't have, soiling of the landscape. There's nothing worse than seeing the detritus of human biological activity. Worse than horses. So that's what I would like to say. I would like to say it's a lovely area. I don't think we should have yet another public space designated only or excluding horse riders. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Sorry, Christine. You've got a question from Roger.
I've got a question, Christine. How many alternatives in our immediate area are there to for taking your horse on that sort of walk?
The question is, Roger, that, okay, but you're really, when you ask that question, you need to say how many places are there that are public?
Okay, how many are public?
Are public. Well, there, I think there would be the Fraser Dam Road, but we need to have permission to ride off the road. There are roads that you can ride on the edge of, but traffic is always an issue for a flight animal. Boot Hill is, we are allowed to ride there. We're trying to, as Dark, establish the trails with better signage so that it makes it clear where horses can ride and where to avoid bikes. And other public areas. There are some dock areas in the City of Otago area. And I have access through farmers to ride in their properties, but what we're talking about here is a place that actually has got some scope. It doesn't have traffic, and it has beautiful views, and it's public access.
Yeah, thank you.
Tracy?
I guess, Chris, just 100% agree with what you're saying. However, I'm just not sure that, and I might have not seen this properly, but is there, I don't think it expressly excludes horse riding, no?
No,
It doesn't. It's just you want this to be
well, what happened is
further recognised.
It doesn't say that it doesn't have anything to do with horses being in the future able to ride there. You see,
so is that section, so if I look at the actual, if it's section 3 is in the start, so it'd be the inclusion of,
yes,
horse riding activities as well as biking, cycling, and racing, etc. And then I think it's 7 point something in relation to the activities. So there's two parts that we could just refer to horse riding.
Yes,
that's what they're after.
That's exactly right. I think too often you see we've had traditional places to ride horses that we no longer can do because of other interests having taken precedence.
And I agree with the wide open scope. You're not going to get that by right from there.
Tony?
You talked about what the rules of riding to pine trees, I guess, and elsewhere in the district they are in terms of riding pines. What's the alternative if they got smoked?
Well, I think obviously in development, it would be really lovely to be able to have other plantings which come on if the pines are going to be felled. Yeah. And, you know, the actual adult riding club is actually happy to help support those things in terms of like manpower. Like that, we don't have lots of funds, but in terms of manpower, we would support people like the Managing Walking Group of all we did do plantings. The things with natives, you know, getting the traditional or the known things like kowhai and things to grow and see. It does take quite a long time to get those things established. But you know, I'd be very pleased to see those kinds of plantings happening.
Yeah, nice.
In the report, Christine, it talks about horse riding being widely requested and further consultation about whether horse riding can be incorporated safely will be undertaken during the development planning process, and I'm quoting now from the report. This is a question through to Gordy, see while you were here. How does that work in practice? Gordy,
Well, I think we've, the chair, just going through, what Tracy said, we would add that to the list in the policy bit and the development plan is the next stage, probably next, for the financial year next year.
Yeah.
We would work out where things can go, and part of that, we did have some zonings on this plan, so we would work with, I guess, the horse. Christian community and the mountain biking, the show and that about where we can, like we've done on digital. So there would be some delineation and just signage up saying what zone is what's happening.
So we get a chance to.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool, thank you very much for coming along and for submitting. Joe Sheriff.
Yes.
Oh, thank you for letting me speak. My name's Joe Sheriff. I'm a local resident of Alexandra and have been for somewhere around the last 10 years. Heavily involved in organising our orienteering events with the mountain bike club, developing tracks, including ones Gordon mentioned on Boot Hill, and also involved with the Harriers and Walkers Club. So I'm sort of involved in a wide spectrum of outdoor activity. So the Madeline Reserve is a wonderful place, and delighted that GODC and the community board are taking a long overdue interest in preserving it. And the management plan is an extremely good start. So well done, Gordon, and in particular Maria, who I've had a few conversations with. Now, I've put in my written submission. I'm not going to address everything in that, otherwise we'll be here all day. But there's just really a couple of points to put across. One of my interests in particular is drawing maps for orienteering competitions, which has recently become very much more sophisticated using lens data, LiDAR, and all that sort of thing. And you can compile very, very accurate maps that fit if you go around with a GPS, the GPS track lands in the right place on the map, all extremely accurate. And an example here is on the maps. I'll be very happy to contribute to mapping should it be needed further with particularly with the development plan. And here's a map of the whole reserve. The green and grey and blue are private land. The yellow is the actual reserve, and the purple is being gazetted for irrigation and recreation purposes, which is basically the lake. Now, if we go up to Fig 2, I've blown up some of it. We can.
Yep.
Go to that. Yeah, there we are. There's a little blown up corner. And in particular, the purple line, that's the legal boundary, the lake, that the gap between the purple and the yellow. And you can see at one point that it goes 50 metres vertically up the hill. There's a 5 metre contours. And elsewhere, it just bears no resemblance to the actual edge of the lake, which is the blue line. So just beware on doing maps and getting things up there, a photo or whatever. Things might not be exactly where you think they are. Anyway, having said that, the main thing I want to talk about before I run out of time is paths for all users, walkers, cyclists, horse riders. And it doesn't get a lot of mention in the management plan. Now, I appreciate that this is probably material for the development plan, but I thought it was worth spending a few minutes outlining what could be a system of paths in the reserve, really as background for you. Now, the draft specifies in the reserve description in section 6 that the dam offers opportunity for walking as well as aquatic activities. But there are only 2 routes that can be considered paths, neither of which is signposted currently, as well as the 4-wheel drive tracks. And there are no tracks, elsewhere biking gets a mention in section 772, but there are no tracks at all suitable for mountain biking, well, or any sort of biking. So what I would like to see, I'd like to see that changed, and here's an outline of a possible track network. And this is my pro. So here we've got the eastern end, you can see where I've labelled the down wall there. The two existing tracks are shown in red. There's one down the right-hand corner that I'll talk about in a moment, and the other one roughly in the middle. That's existing track used by walkers, horses, and is good, but it's very steep. It's too steep to ride a bike up. You even you're not guaranteed to get up it on an e-bike. And so what I've outlined is one track up at the top left-hand corner, going up from the down wall, zigzagging up the hill up to the top, and that then joins a loop, which is that curly bit in the middle, and to access now during the summer, I spoke to a number of people down at the diving rock who'd ridden their bikes up there, and they were mentioned the possibility of an off-road route, and they thought it was fantastic. As it is actually quite dangerous riding up there with the road with its blind corners and so on. And at the moment, I must admit, I've done a little bit of clearing of briar, etc. on them, and you can actually ride a bike around all of that. You can walk, but a bit of benching, especially if you've got a little digger in there, and you'd actually make it a really nice track. We'll flip now to the eastern end, which is next big 4, I think.
Coming up.
Lovely, thank you. Yeah, the red track is that one that Christine mentioned along the edge of the lake. I can actually get a horse along it, I'm not quite sure as it's very overgrown, but you can at least get along it on foot. Apparently, some years ago, you used to be able to ride a bike along it, but the combination of growth, fallen trees, and by the way, while the inclines were cleared off the eastern end there about 10 years ago, they were dropped. It is one incredible mess of weeds. It's totally impenetrable to get anywhere. There's old man's beard there, which actually you as landowners should be controlling. It's a mess. So please, any wild inclines, they've got to be mulch chipped and got rid of. Anyway, the exact path, the green, again, that's the
Sorry.
path that you can.
We've to go quite a bit over the 5 minutes.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, very briefly, walking the top track, you can walk. The yellow, I sympathise with Christine, pours out all that top area, very suitable for horse riding. There could be clashes if horses are down in amongst the trees and the blind corners down the bottom. Not excellent. Right. Yes, sorry for overrunning there, but
Yeah, that's okay.
I'm very happy to take questions.
Yeah, are there any questions?
Oh, great maps.
Yeah, that's a great map. Thank you. And I bet Gordon and the team would love to have a chat during the developmental part of this process. Thank you.
Right.
I'm sure they'll be in touch. Yeah.
Okay.
When we get to that phase.
Right.
Richard Bush. Welcome.
Hello, I'm Marisha, and this is someone who lives here in Alex, and I don't have fancy maps or anything like that. I just wanted to come to say thank you and support your agree with your 2 preferred options, that keep access as it is, don't let 4-wheel drives go in there, sorry, because they just muck it up. And also the freedom camping, you didn't think freedom camping was appropriate, and I don't think so either. And so I just wanted to come to say I agree with that.
Thank you.
The other submissions said the same, so I don't know. And then I did have a query, like, talked about sailboats, I talked about little boats or, but not motorised things. I just wondered what is allowed there. I don't have anything, don't have a boat.
At the moment, no control mechanisms, but yes, generally it's accepted that sailboats and canoe,
I sort of saw something about motorised and then
we've crossed that out because now motorised boats can get quite dirty by cars, but you get all of these. So.
That's right.
Dirty for some, yeah.
There's no, from memory up there, there's no way to drop a boat in anyway, is there? It's not a boat ramp.
No, it's not like that. You
So-
put a kayak.
You probably could could you put a jet?
Or something.
Mm.
You could.
Yeah.
I have seen that. That would be amazing.
I have seen jet skis on that.
Okay, but you'd put that in that you don't.
Yeah, no, definitely
I think it's already in there.
So I just say conflicting about South I went a little optimist and be baby boats going.
Yeah.
I think to make your point is that the Mandarin is a unique place that with some minor modifications like tracks and things to enhance the actual area, you're still keeping it the same.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it.
No, I guess when I read through it, there seemed to be something that said sound, that said murder. It's just puffed off and excluding crowd. Anyway, I'm going to agree. And I don't know if you need toilets. You've managed this length of time. Is there a toilet problem? Toilet waste problem there?
The one the lady that spoke recently, what happened, and talked about it as such a beautiful place that everyone should share. And what she said was she takes the only people for driving there and it's a perfect place, but there's nothing for it.
No. But I mean,
if there's toilets, there's going to be free and clear.
exactly. And how far? It's only what, 5-10 minutes. So you can go for a drive and come back to the toilet in Alex, where you have how many other public toilets does the council provide? You know, I just think you're asking for problems and huge costs. Not huge, huge costs for one toilet there. It will be disgusting. People won't use it either.
And we get vandalised.
Vandalised, you know what I mean? So I would just, opposite, I don't think that would be toilets. So, you know.
Roger?
The case of four-wheel drives, I think that can be controlled by appropriate barriers, where they've been driving up and down the hills. The case, what's your view on the case for, off-road motorbikes?
Same thing.
Yeah.
That you can't block them the same way as you can block four-wheel drives. That's the key. I mean, that's a problem. We could actually have a notice saying no off-road motorbikes, and I'd be in favour of that notice. But it's not going to actually physically stop.
We'll just send Martin out. Martin can stay out there 3 hours a day.
Great big signs and it's everyone knows, but it's clear that that's not what's allowed. It's like up on Dock Landing that says no things. People can't be out there the whole time, but you have to put it in writing and you're clear that you don't want it.
There's been a lot of work done in recent years with the police, educating youngsters and trail bikes and where they cannot.
Yeah.
But it's the most effective way of stopping it from happening. I mean, some of us cynically would have picked piano wire at neck height, which would probably look better. But in the last few years, we've seen a significant change in attitude from some of those youngsters on their trail bikes who would be using the rail trail to get access to those things. Through education, it is changing.
That's good, isn't it? So if you write it in there, you can't say, oh, you can't do something because it's too difficult. You can't stop it happening. You still got to try.
So enforcement is
Yeah.
But that's the problem.
Yeah, that's a problem, but it's the same with whole lots of things, isn't it? But just put it out there and it's considered how it's to be run, but. It's not those things. Anyway, I was just agreeing with your plans.
Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah.
A different type, isn't it?
Done with.
All right, Anne-Marie Gilman. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name's Anne-Marie Gilmore, and I've been a local since I was 8 years old. Been in other places in the world and in other parts of the country. I've come back recently in the last 5 years and made my husband put a little lifestyle block and really love the area. Love Mandarin Dam. It has been a very significant part of my life from when I was a child. Going out there swimming, walking the dog, kayaking, enjoying all of the parts of that. The biggest part of me being here today is also on the horse riding side of it. We're also very keen horse riders, and my husband and I and our 2 daughters go up there very frequently. We're actually up there for ice skating and swimming and walking, and it's our favourite spot really. We go up there and have picnics and everything. But another big part of that is that we jump on our horses and take the girls, and my husband and I ride up there very often. One of the reasons that we really love that area is because we've kind of lost access to a lot of our little local businesses in recent years that I used to enjoy when I was younger, riding around different areas. We used to ride around the airport and around Burt Hill, Martin Station and all those sorts of places, but we kind of had that shrink a little bit with the nice and close areas that we go riding. But we've got a lot of other people that we know that use the Mandarin Dam area for that reason, that it's really close. They can ride from Galloway up there, really quick access, but also super safe. Now that the roads are starting to get a little bit more dangerous for horse riders and just a lot more busy. And yeah, we're just finding that that area is like a real asset to our community to be able to go up there. So I guess I'm here today just to say what an amazing spot Mandarin Dam is, and thank you for considering it in the council. I think it's great that we make it a little bit, its usage a little bit more official and safe, and also make sure that it becomes like and continues to be a really significant place for locals to be able to go and use. But I guess I just don't want us as horse riders to not be able to have that access or to lose access, because I think there's a little bit of a fear amongst riders these days that we're slowly losing the places that are safe for us to go, and the Mandarin Council GM for being able to ride. And I think there's also a little bit of a misunderstanding about what horses need and also about damage and things like that that they can cause. I think horses and bikers, people do notice that there are some conflicts that are with that, especially with the higher speed that bikers go at these days because of electric parts and those sorts of things that are becoming a big thing. But I think that there are ways that we can incorporate them very safely and have them as part of that and working together. But I think a big part of that is probably an understanding from other users what horses need. And the most part is that that we just have a little bit of space and that they allow us to let bikers and things like that, if they call out as they're approaching horses, that can help horse riders a lot, because it's often the sudden startle of the bike that can scare a horse. But that's, you can sort of incorporate those things with good signage. I know they do it very well in Canada on combined tracks, where you've got walking and biking and horses all in the same use on the same tracks with really good signage just about giving way. And I think there are really good opportunities for us to bring that, and it'll be a real asset to our community to be able to allow those users in as well, because it'll help to see that that area cater for those increasing equestrians that are coming to the region as well. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? No?
Very good, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And again, yeah, thanks to 70 people and organisations that made submissions. That's a really good number for a reserve management plan during such a busy time with a lot of other consultation. And especially thank you to you guys that came along today. So now we'll go to Gordy.
So I think the 71 or Tuesday that was a little late, but I went through, that got sent through Sarah.
Yeah, I will send that out.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think the process now is to consider the written submissions, or I'm going to through every of those and give us any feedback if we want added or not into the plan. We've already summarised the submissions we've got on. We've suggested no camping because of remote and control that often other issues that can happen. Same with the floor riding motorbike. We've talked about that and the reasons why we can quite well. And we can, as we talked about earlier, we can certainly include horse riding and also trails that Joe talked about. And a lot of submissions you might have noticed actually are more leaning towards building stuff and getting stuff done. And that's part of the development plan. We've done through the LTP. This plan is more for the policy to allow those things to happen as and when is required, and whether that's toilets or not toilets, that will funding things as well. So that are the things that's where the plan is at the moment, and the idea is to get any more feedback or direction from the board, and we'll go away and put those changes in the plan and bring it back in the next meeting before to recommend to council to approve that. And the delegation for the consideration.
Tracy?
Yes, so I've got to, when I read through that, I think there's a couple of points there. Section 3, for referendum horse riding, question activity in horse riding, whatever's going to be the appropriate years, and obviously section 7. But I have a different question in relation to the policy. I'm not sure if this is the appropriate time to bring that up, but on page 17 of the document, but 64 of our agendas, it refers to rabbit control.
Yeah.
And you say, and there's two conflicting things there. You say regular control of rabbits is undertaken. And then at page 71 of our documents, 24 of the actual, your document is at 7.7.6 pest control. Ongoing rabbit control will be undertaken as required. As required and regular are not the same.
So,
Glad we have a lawyer here.
I just wanted to know you just need to make sure we've got that correct for people if someone's going to question that at some point.
Which one would you prefer, Tracy?
No rabbits at all would be really good.
Be great.
From a horse riding perspective, because it's like a disaster. Yeah.
So we've got, I think there's only about 3 rabbits, about 6 of them, so.
Yeah.
The levels are reasonably low, that way you're not going to get a lot of them.
I don't mind how you do it or when you do it. I just think it should be consistent. That's all. What your wording is whether, so, and I actually don't mind what you've said, 7.7.6 gives you some freedom to which is there. Whereas everybody's perception of regular might be different. And you might be subject to a little more criticism as to what regular is. So I think you've got it right there at 7.7.6. Just make sure that, yeah, that's all.
Finley?
I'm still worried about the community. It's 2 minutes. I think it's got me saying that everyone should be able to get out there and do it. And it's putting that in front of them and the life saving. And it's okay, if you're taking out a business view and looking and bringing that back, but you go to it, because we're going to have a lovely time. You're still going to have to. I'm interested in that because
I think we didn't discount them. That's more of a funding decision for the councils for now, whether they build them or not, and how they maintain it.
Used to be in the station.
Yeah.
I think for a lot of people currently who use the area, they would know that they should go before. So they go. And no, I agree with them. And maybe, we talk about signage. Maybe there's something that says there is no door at the end.
But don't say the picnic.
Don't say the picnic. Well, I mean, look, if you've got little kids, guaranteed you know what's going to happen. I mean, either in the water or around the behind bush. But the reality is that the cost of putting the toilet in and maintaining the toilet and making sure it doesn't get, if we have the vehicles and issues we have in here, imagine what it would be out there. I think the cost to our district and a time where our district has told us don't spend any more money, we don't want to pay more rates, I think it would be a bit of a pushback.
Yeah.
But I do take the point that
That doesn't mean it can't happen in the future.
No. I think what we wouldn't fall in the trap is, and from all they had a management plan that said no toilets, and the reserve, and 25 years ago, and some years later, the reserve was so busy with head butchers, and go back to the management plan and change that, so we would allow that, but it would be a council funding decision at some point in the future. This doesn't, they can make the council for any funding at all, it just allows things to happen or not to happen.
Yeah.
When the time's right.
So, anyone else? Are we happy with the recommendations on 4-wheel drive vehicles, no to freedom camping, and to the non-motorised boats? Is there anything else? So,
and we'll add those things about best also.
yeah, so you're gonna get it, yeah.
Well, no, no.
Perfect. Okay.
I'm happy to move option one.
Okay, so so A, B, C, and D. Seconded by Tracy, all in favour? Aye, against, carried. Here you go, some progress on horses. All right, so we'll now move to page 114, agenda item 25.3.5. Manahia Kia Valley's Community Hub update. Tara.
Conflict obviously, the interview on this, so I'm not sure. If you wait.
Okay.
I know it's only an update, but I'm just.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Understandable.
Cheers, thanks a lot. Thanks.
Hey, Tara.
I'll take the report as read. This is just an update on what's been happening in Kia Valley's Community Hub project. And the main things is that council in March, construction contract to bring construction after a tender process subject to funding in the resolutions in the report. And in terms of funding, we can say that at the moment, the original estimate is 5.2 million, and the cost, although it remains confidential, it is a little bit less than that. And that will remain confidential until we've got an unconditional contract in place. We've had some really great news from OCT, the $540,000 grant, and that's brought a confirmed funding total up to 2.5 million. And so we'll be waiting for the results of funding applications to CRT and lotteries, which we will have in May, June time.
Right, any questions, comments?
Well done.
Good.
Great group of people that are in front of us.
Actually, we're saying you're on track to run the budget.
Yeah.
How often do you hear that? Especially around this time.
I'll be the second one, Sarah. You've had another one this week, haven't you?
Wow.
Yeah, we talk about start time at the airport came in at a fairly good price, the reselling of it. Yeah, nearly half what we thought.
Just funny.
Oh, look at us.
Yeah.
Good work.
Sarah's had a couple of good ones. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. Any further comments or questions?
I'll move and accept the report.
Okay, seconder, Tony, all in favour? Aye, against, carried. Somebody want to let Tracy know we're good.
Thanks, Tara.
Thank you. So we'll move on to the Mayor's report. So Mayor did text just before to apologise. She had planned to come back, but resigned. So Chair's report. Zoom in so I can actually see what I've written. So it's been a busy 6 weeks since we last met. As usual, I attended an Alexandra Council Social Services meeting. I also had the opportunity to meet with members of the Board of Directors and Executive Management team of Queenstown Airport in Cromwell a few weeks ago, and attended Anzac services in Clyde, Alexandra and Shadow Creek, and had the privilege of laying a wreath at Clyde alongside Tony and one in Alexandra with Tamati. And I'd just like to note how good the turnouts were for all of those, all four of them. The LTP has taken up most time with public information sessions at Dunstan High School, Alexandra Library, Ormeco, and yesterday at the Clyde Library. I've had other LTP related catch-ups with people, including with the Pulborough community at the Pulborough School recently around wanting to keep their hall. I also joined the Maniatoto Community Board Chair Rob Hazlitt, Councillor Stewart Stu Duncan, and Deputy Mayor at a session in Ranfurly, just to get an idea on what the thoughts were in another area when it came to the halls and the turfs. Now, some of the key points raised with me were concern and confusion with volumetric charging and the creation of the CCO for water. And I'll just point out that Tracy and Tamer have been amazing in really helping people understand those processes and what council's looking at. Yep, obviously a lot of people have been interested in keeping all of the halls in Vincent. And the pool has been another one, which there's been, the conversations I've had, quite split at this point between retaining the outdoor pool and getting rid of it. So that's been quite interesting. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the submissions look like on that. I'd just like to thank all VCB members who have taken the time to attend these sessions and speak with and listen to our communities. I've been impressed by the level of engagement by this board in this process and believe we've shown that we can and will play a vital role in local government, even with July's changes coming up. I'd also like to acknowledge Mayor Tamer Ali for her leadership through this process, along with all the staff that have been there to support us and have had to put up with my near constant questions, especially in the water space, as I quickly tried to get up to speed on what's going on in a very complicated issue. For those hopefully watching live or on YouTube tonight, submissions are still open for a few more days. Submissions are currently at 415. Oh no, no, I'm getting to the youth space. Yeah, 415 for the, I'm not going to call them adult submissions, but the main submissions. We've all heard a lot over the past year from people telling us how we could do things differently. So now is your chance to actually do that, write a submission and get it in. And I just really wanted to point out that the youth submissions are currently at 240, which is amazing for that 18 and underage group. Really happy to see our community's future leaders participating and showing that young people do care and want to play their part in shaping the future. So for everybody that hasn't made a submission, please get those in by the 1st of May. And I will move my receipt. And Rod will second it. All in favour? Yeah. Aye. Against? Carried. And I will send it to you then, Sarah. And now we'll move on to members' reports. Roger.
Right. I attended a meeting of the Keep Alexandra Clyde Beautiful. Attended a meeting of Alexandra and District Museum Board. Attended a meeting of Central Otago REAP. Chaired a meeting of a Creative Writers Circle, and I gave a talk to Alexandra U3A, University of the Third Age. I attended an Elevate Business Group breakfast meeting. There's another one tomorrow at 7 AM if anyone's interested. I met with a group of local residents of the Lower Manawatu Recreation Reserve, including some who gave talks today. I attended a meeting of the Dunstan Friendship Club, attended CODC drop-in session on the long-term plan. I met with members of the Clyde Theatre Group to hear their views on future options for a theatre space that was initiated through the threats to the Clyde Hall, the Memorial Hall, but there are other options on their plate, which I was very interested to hear about. I spent a week in Sydney where I was interested to see that budgets for major projects typically devote 1% to public art. And it took some time to actually have a look around and actually see what was done, obviously on a much bigger scale. But applying that rule, and I laid a wreath on behalf of the Vincent Community Board at the Chatto Creek Anzac Day ceremony. That's my report. Thanks.
Andy Roger,
attended meetings of the Alexandra Rugby Football Club and the Alexandra Golf Club. Attended the Alexandra Anzac service. In April, I ran the Otago Men's Golf Championship, 130 players. And yesterday, I ran the Ladies National Teams competition, 100 lovely ladies. 21 clubs from Otago were represented. And also we had a lot of visitors into our community over the golf course over the long Easter and the Anzac weekends. It was really, really busy times. That's me.
Just a question.
Yes.
Is there an increasing, is the usage both from external for the golf course and from locals?
Yeah.
Is it increasing?
Yeah.
You know,
Since COVID,
yeah,
golf was the big winner out of COVID. It's just
brilliant.
pretty much throughout New Zealand, but Central Otago especially, we're getting more and more people from, especially the North Island, coming to Central Otago, rather than going maybe to Australia or other places. It's become a real golfing hub here.
Destination.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, they pretty much base themselves in Queenstown, unfortunately. They don't stay here, a lot of them, some do. But the Alex, we're lucky they're making the effort to come down and play here. But it is, we'd be 3 or 4 times up on since COVID days.
Are the 2 golf courses under construction in Queenstown?
Yep.
One at the corner of Turn Off Tarratown and then.
Yeah, Trojan, I'm actually going to look at one, Human Minds Project Manager, I'm going to look at their one on Tuesday next week. Yeah, they'll be up and running in 3 years.
Will that take a little bit from you, so the fees more.
Maybe I'll be retired by then too, so. But probably, I would think so. Yeah, a lot of these resorts now, like the Mulbrooks and Jack's Points, you're paying $400 around.
Yeah.
Now, you get 20 boys from Wellington coming down to North and come down, it's from 60. So, and Cromwell 60 and so.
The other golf course on the Turn Off Tarratown, is that a sort of public, more of a public style, or is that a lead?
That one will be to some extent, I believe, yeah. But there's a lot of money being spent, not cheap golf courses.
Martin,
That's for the rich.
Very much so.
Martin.
Attended a meeting out at OFA to discuss the hall and had a good look around and most impressed with what that community has done out there on a voluntary basis. Anzac Day was again cracker turnout, even though I think the master of ceremonies must have kicked things off about 10 minutes early. He wasn't watching the clock on the hill. It was 11 o'clock start and we got there at 11 o'clock and everybody was in place. I missed the marching. Again, on LTP sessions and a lot of questions being fired at me through emails or just in my average daily contact with people, whether it be at the coffee shops or at the supermarket. It's interesting, the level of interest this year seems to me, and again anecdotally, it's less than it has been in the past, even though we're dealing with a lot more controversial issues now. And I'm trying to put the figure on why, but I generally, apart from the well, we actually call the tinfoil brigade, which is out there, I think there's a general acceptance out there in the community that what we are doing, we have no choice, but we need to get on and do it. Here we are. It's me.
Well, thanks, Martin. Wise words. Lindley.
Okay, so I attended the council meeting on the 4th of April and attended a couple of the LTP consultation meetings. And just for the number of submissions, although we got against our population, I wonder how much of a mandate we actually have to make change based on that number of submissions. And then I was listening to both Tim and Evie this morning talking about people with anxiety in the community, and I just want to tell my story if I can. Right, about Anzac Day, and I took my 4 copies to the cemetery from the dad, my sister and my brother-in-law. And I just want to talk about my dad. He was taken prisoner in Crete and spent 4 years as a prisoner of war camp. At one point, they were in a loose enclosure on Crete and they managed to escape, a few of them, looking for food. And they came to a village and Gestapo arrived and they watched the villagers gun down, machine gun down in front of them. And by the time they'd been transported between POW camps on hill weapons and trains were going in the opposite direction. with people wailing and screaming, and Dad realised later they were Jews heading to the concentration camp. There was another time where that they were in a holding camp beside the Russians when someone stole a potato, and they had to stand outside naked in the snow all night until a Russian confessed and was clubbed to death in front of them. At the end of the war, he was in the long march to the west to escape the Russians who were coming from the east. They marched across Europe in winter conditions, half starving, and at one point he fell and should have been shot. But it was a German Air Force officer who asked that my father be put on a horse and cart. So he survived, and we're here because of him. I had the privilege of helping some soldiers in their later years to be finally diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder and to be eligible for a veteran's pension. Disability pension, far too late, but at least they got some recognition and their wives some financial security for their last year. But unfortunately, it doesn't end here. Post-traumatic stress disorder has been proven to be intergenerational, meaning the effects of trauma experienced by one generation can manifest in subsequent generations. Research suggests that trauma can affect a person's DNA, and that exposure to extremely adverse events impacts individuals to such a great extent it can potentially affect the health of future generations. My point is, I wonder how many of our generation and future generations are and will suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety, depression, passed down to them in their DNA from the effects of world wars then, now, and in the future. But just sitting up at the cemetery with my poppies, it seemed a really important story to tell. And highlighted by Evie and Tim this morning, and people in our community. Some of this passed down through the DNA from the terrible things that could be. That's my thought for me that day.
Thank you for sharing that. Thanks, man. Oh, sorry, Tracy.
How do I go after that one? And mine's not nearly as eloquent as what Lily has just pointed out. So, like Martin, I met with some of the hall committee to have a look around and discuss the hall, and agree with your sentiments, Martin, that it is in good heart out here. I've attended 3 LTP sessions. Great to have all the community, that members that have been at those places involved and active. I later read at the Omakau Anzac service, and it's every year there's more and more people attending, and it's really fabulous to have the younger generation to get up and speak and acknowledge, you know, obviously, like Lily was saying, the age divide does not actually matter when it comes to thinking about Anzac, the Anzac service. So that was really, really great. But I was also really fortunate to be able to attend the opening of the Orkney wetland, which is in the for the Thompson's catchment. So if you've ever been on the rail trail towards Omakau, you could go down if you wanted to walk past the golf course and just down a wee bit. There is now a fabulous viewing platform that you can see out over the top of the wetland, which essentially has been funded, one of them through the Bob Turnbull Trust, partly through the Bob Turnbull Trust and Brink Construction and amongst others. But amazing to have this wetland and the things that it is doing, the involvement of the community, the schools, the predator trapping, the water testing. You know, this is a true community spirit happening there. And also, as my husband pointed out, despite the differences of opinion he has with a previous ex-Minister of Parliament, the money that was received from the then Labor government and Minister Parker has gone to an amazing thing in our community, and I would urge everyone to go along and have a look. And huge thanks to the McLeod family for making that happen. As far as Victoria, obviously, actually supporting something. I know, look, there you go.
And we've got it on record.
That's been recorded. So, but yes, I will give thanks where thanks is due.
I almost feel like another VCB road trip coming on. Right, thank you, Tracy. Tony?
I think the bar's getting high, not lower, on the side of the table. So been to the Blossom Festival AGM and promote Dunstan committees, and obviously the Clyde Wine and Food Festival at Easter. Interesting, both of those events are so weather prone and becoming more weather prone. So the Wine and Food Festival got off to a really slow start till 11:30, just because it carried on raining till, what you're saying, man, starts at 7, ends at 11.
By 7, gone by 11.
Yeah, so that was the rain, which was not forecast. Couple of Anzac services here, the Dawn Parade up on Clyde Lookout was, I think, yeah, numbers are certainly not decreasing. They're probably more and more kids getting involved in that. Was the age shall not be legal. Did a couple of LTP meetings at the Tapanui and the online one. Talked to the lessees at the Clyde Railway Station, and them plus the museums, committees, and Promote Dunstan are all very active in terms of discussion around the LTP, and we've tried to encourage them to participate in the submission process, but they'd be interested to know how successful that's been. That's me.
Thank you. And I think listening to those reports, it's proving the point that everybody's been very active in this LTP process, which has been great.
Just one other thing I just wanted to mention, the article that you put into the local paper, I thought was very good. I don't know if you've had an opportunity to read it. It was very, very good. So thanks. In the end, it's through it and things. I thought it was spot on. Perfect.
I will move that those reports be received. Roger, second. All in favour?
Yep.
Aye. Against? Carried. So on to page 119, item 25.3.9, the governance reports.
Sorry, Patrick's not here, so he's going to give us an update. I'll get him to put it in an email.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's been emailed out. Is there anything from that report?
I can take it as read.
Awesome. Seconder, Tracy, all in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. And finally, the date of our next meeting is Monday, the 9th of June.
And I'm going to apologize, John.
Okay.
Noted. Thank you.
Saying, oh, yeah, you guys, I feel like we're missing out on something here.
I've got a significant birthday party in Christchurch to go to.
Ah.
Not mine.
No, yours.
It's birthday lunch.
Right. End of the meeting? Yeah.